The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are held by the individual hosts. They don't even reflect the views and opinions of the person sitting across the table, let alone any national, state, or local professional associations that either of the hosts may have ties to.
Well said.
We're going to talk about some stuff today that might get people upset.
Possibly. We're in feisty moods today.
So, listener discretion advised if you're easily triggered on either side of the well-publicized issues that are going on. Maybe this episode isn't for you.
Yes, we are on level 6 of Jumanji.
Yeah. But that being said, we're also going to talk about some fun stuff. Yeah, we're going to still talk about the regular stuff that we talk about, but I know that the conversation, especially because of one of the topics that's already on our list today, will in some ways lead into other conversations. So
correct.
Anyway, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show.
What is going on?
It's time once again for the Tucker and the Beard podcast.
Yes.
Broadcasting not live from beautiful Prescott, Arizona.
We should have like the studio audience. I was talking to my kids the other day, and they're like, "Is that like one of those sitcoms?" And I was like, "Yeah." Right. And they're like, where people are like laughing in the background. I'm like, "Yeah."
We could have a
little laugh track.
I've
like
as we've become more established,
right.
I've been toying around with trying to organize a live podcast session.
We may or may not,
or like a Q&A type of a thing.
Yeah, we may or may not be having an appearance this week, given everything going on in the world. We haven't heard.
We're supposed to find out tonight.
Okay.
At some point, whether certain events are going to be allowed to continue.
So there's a possible event here in Prescott, and we were asked to be a part of it.
Yeah, we're excited about that.
So we're just waiting to see if, given the state of the world, if
we're allowed.
Yeah, because of here in Arizona and a lot of places that there's curfews.
Yeah, we've got a statewide curfew that's been imposed upon us.
Not to count out quarantine as well. So
yeah,
and
the quarantine's pretty much over.
Yeah, but gatherings of people. I just went and got my hair cut today, and it was, man, you gotta jump over some hurdles just to get your hairs cut. But
I mean, the only hurdle I had when I got my get out of quarantine haircut was, it was my guy was just booked for about a week before I could get in.
Yeah, it was a little bit of that, but it was coming in and separate, and don't touch anything. Usually there's kind of a little sign-in thing, and they're like, no. So it wasn't a huge deal, but it was, as I was kind of talking to my wife, it was just a reminder. You kind of forget for a little bit of the whole quarantine thing and social distance, and then you kind of get slapped in the face with it. You're like, oh yeah. Well, it's like I don't. Full disclosure, I don't wear a mask everywhere I go. Blasphemous. No, I don't everywhere except for places where it's.
Well, there's only one place that it's required so far that I've been to, and that was Costco. Yeah. And you know what I did? I just put the thing on. Yeah. I wasn't an ass about it.
Right.
I didn't yell at some entry-level employee who happened to be watching the door that day. And I didn't flash a fake I have a disability card so I could walk through the door without a mask on. It wasn't that big of a deal, and it wasn't that big of an imposition.
Right. So, it was one of those things.
Point number one.
Yeah, it was like 100% agree. Because, we had adopted a cat over the last week or so.
My condolences.
Hey, it's steps, my friend.
Yeah.
It's steps. But that was a requirement in order to go there and
there's some places that are requiring masks.
So
and if you want to use those places, put one on. Quit being a baby about it.
Yeah. So guess what?
You're no better than the fragile individual who feels like they need to take their dog with them everywhere they go.
Right.
And
it's not required.
Again, I understand that there are some people who 100%. Have severe mental disorders that do require, and obviously there's some people who have severe physical disorders, and those animals really help. But if you bought your vest on Amazon so you could bring Fifi to the produce department, you're the worst.
Yeah. And it's, obvious. I know. It's just like
greatest hits going out
we're
right
just
now.
Loading it up and going.
Sit through the first part. Yeah. We'll get to the good stuff here in just a little while.
We're building up.
We're just going to get it out of our system, I think.
Say, I'm trying to kind of like segue and build into it, and you're just like, let's go. Let's talk about some things.
Well, just every one of your segues reminds me of something that I'm pissed off about right now. So,
we're in rare form today.
Yeah,
I think we came into the office today and we're like,
it was for me. It was yesterday. Like as the day wore on, like we had a team meeting yesterday just to kind of get some plans in place and some things set in motion. And as the day went on, I just a mood set in that didn't even that. Sometimes you're like, I'm in a mood, but I'll wake up tomorrow and I'll feel better.
Yeah.
Not today.
Well,
This will be cathartic.
Yes.
We will be each other's therapists this morning.
I know, it's like we should be on couches, just talking to each other. But yesterday, as you knew, and it's like these are just one of them is a weird not problem to have, but the other one I think my day kind of started hearing about the school. The possibility of reopening with all these
all these conditions, regulations
of requiring the kids to wear masks and staggered schedules, which I have 3 kids. So unless the whole school district is going to be like, okay, kids with,
A through L
last names are going to have, like, I could be bouncing around
for most of your whole day.
And I can't do that.
And how does that make you feel?
I feel angry. It's my parents' fault.
How you feeling, little Tony?
Bad.
Why are you feeling bad?
It's their fault. So
and they will pay.
Yeah. So I had that, which was just kind of this overarching problem that we have to figure out.
Yeah. Like just an overwhelming sense of meh.
It's just like meh. And then, as you know, and this is kind of my funny, not real problem, but my listing, as we've talked about, and then I had 9.
Things are going bonkers in the real estate business, ladies and gentlemen.
I had 9 offers on my house.
List now.
On my listing. But when I was sitting there, like, nicely telling the agent, like, hey, I'm sorry, they went this way. Like, they were crabby with me. It's just, I'm like... it just drains you when people's... I guess that's my overarching thing. Just the toxic negativity.
Well, it's like everyone seems to be really mad right now.
Right.
And that takes a toll on everybody.
Right. And I think...
Even if you're not directly mad about something, other people's just overwhelming sense of upsetness.
Right.
For some people, I won't even go as far as anger, but...
Right.
It does. It takes a toll on everyone that they have to deal with.
And I think that was kind of my point of it, that I was getting a lot of just negative emails, phone calls, vibes, texts, and just being like, oh, God, really?
Yeah.
Come on.
Can you not?
Yeah, like, I don't hate anybody. Just come on. Let's do this. So, yeah, I think it's just carried on in the overarching things going on in the world. And
the State of the Union is not strong, ladies and gentlemen. No, not at this moment.
I had to have a conversation with my kid today of things that, they had seen and just going, all right, this is what's going on.
Hard conversations to have as a parent,
Yeah. And I know we're getting
just
into
as a human.
Yeah.
I hate that I have to.
Yeah.
I know that where we live, I live in a pretty darn rural community.
I live there too.
Well, I'm even more rural than
you
y'all
are. You're a little.
You know
more,
what I mean?
You're a little
and
more
so,
rural, but
I feel, thankfully, that we're pretty safe.
Right.
That we probably, unless all this stuff escalates dramatically, that I'm probably okay.
Right. And for those that, and kind of touching on that is because I did see some things where there's rumors of buses, of protesters that are going to come up to our rural town.
Yeah.
And riot and cause damage to buildings in our downtown.
Well, and some of them saying we're not just attacking the cities anymore. We're coming into the suburbs. We're coming into your neighborhoods.
We're coming into your house.
And to that I say, I'm your Huckleberry.
Yeah.
Like please believe
that will be
whatever point you're trying to make.
Yeah.
I got a different point that I'm going to make if anyone shows up to my house, but I'm really that's the thing though is I mean that when I say that I freaking mean it
100%.
But I'm also pretty confident that that's not going to be the case where I live.
Right. I don't think that they're going to be breaking into where we're at, but to like what you said, that will be the last and worst mistake of your life.
Yeah, it's not a good idea.
It's a bad idea.
Now,
but yeah,
since we're here, it's. But I also understand your anger. I sympathize 100%. With your anger. I stand shoulder to shoulder with that anger, with those people. I really genuinely do.
Yes. Because we're going to keep going, I'm making sure that, yes, I'm agreeing with exactly what you are saying right now.
And, it is truly a shame that there have been innocent business owners that have been affected by this. Mm-hmm. And that's rough.
Yeah.
It really is. And I feel for those business owners. Mm-hmm. But we got bigger problems than that right now. And it goes beyond.
There's problems on both sides of it.
But the killing of innocent or not found guilty even American citizens
Correct.
Has got to stop.
Correct.
There's massive reform that needs to take place inside the institution of policing in this country.
Correct.
And I think that's something that we can both agree on.
100%.
It's far too difficult for good officers to get rid of bad officers.
Very much so.
And the fact of the matter is they wear a uniform for a reason. They wear a uniform so that when we see one of them, we see all of them.
That's correct.
And that's the reason anyone wears a uniform. I don't care where you work. If you work at Best Buy, you wear a blue shirt and khakis because you're just a Best Buy employee.
Right.
You're not Jim, the Best Buy employee, with your own set of emotions and concerns and problems.
Right.
You're a Best Buy employee. And when a customer of Best Buy walks in, they expect a certain thing from a Best Buy employee.
Correct.
Police are no different.
I 100% agree with you.
You're not supposed to see a different officer. And when it's so difficult for good officers with good intentions to get rid of bad officers, when they have to put their jobs on the line
right,
to do the right thing, and they have to choose between feeding their families and doing the right thing,
right,
that's unacceptable.
Well, and and without kind of pulling at the thread of my previous professions or anything like that, but which is okay, but it's one of those things for me to see it kind of differently. And yes, I 100% agree with you that there are many bad officers. And
there are many more with good intentions.
They kind of find each other. There's just one thing. And so those good officers are kind of over here, kind of on the outside.
Yeah.
And more often than not, they're kind of weeded over here. They're separated.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's.
Well, you served for how long? Was it like 9 years?
Yeah, almost 9.
So remove yourself from the situation.
Right.
You're a 9-year veteran of a police department, of a police force.
Right.
And you see someone, whether they're ahead of you seniority-wise or not, but you see someone do something that you know is wrong.
Right.
And it's just a damn shame.
Yeah. Well,
that you have to consider, if I do something about this officer,
right,
I could be risking my entire career. I could be risking the pension that I've worked for almost a decade to build up.
Correct.
It's a different kind of unfair.
Right.
It's not the same as American citizens being murdered by the people who are sworn to protect and serve them.
Right.
But it's still unfair, and it's still not right.
100%.
And that's where the change. That's where this is all stemming from. It is decades and decades of pent up frustration on not being properly represented, of being, and it does go beyond race. It does go beyond race. And I've seen a lot of people trying to mention that there are fewer actual people of color that are killed by officers than white people.
Correct.
But those people, one of the stats was like, well, it was less than 50%. It was about 50% of the people that were killed in a police interaction were a person of color. Right. But those people only make up 28% of our population.
Right.
So it does go beyond color, but it also doesn't. In some cases, in some ways that you can look at it.
Right. No, I agree with you that there's a bigger thing, and that's why I guess I'm always kind of quiet when it comes to this kind of stuff, and because it's like, all right, let's do that. And I always want to be careful with what I'm saying as to not be taken this way or that way.
Sure.
And 100% what happened was wrong. It was like I
don't think anyone is
right. I was like,
in this in this incident that sparked this
right
that's going on right now. George Floyd being killed by a police officer while being watched by 3 other police officers.
100%. What him being charged and the other ones being fired. Correct thing.
I think they could have gone further with it, but I think all 4 of them should be facing charges.
My concern going into it was that there wasn't going to be.
Oh, could you imagine?
But I wouldn't have been surprised. That's what I was expecting. I was expecting it to be administrative leave and the most being fired. That's why and I was like, oh, this is about to get,
and therein lies the tragedy.
Really bad. And so when he was actually taken into custody and charged, I was like, okay, they're doing it right.
Yeah.
As far, but again, do you want to be the police chief or the county sheriff that's like not charging him because of fear of what's going to happen if you don't?
That should be the greater fear.
Right.
The greater fear should be what happens if I don't do the right thing.
Right.
But it seems as if the opposite is the truth.
Right. My point,
in most cases.
Right. My point is, yes, this is about right and wrong.
Yeah.
It's not, for me, it's not about race. It's about right and wrong.
Yeah.
And I guess kind of hitting on that. So that's why when and we've had the conversations of, these lives matters, these don't, and everything like that. It's like, no, stop. It's about right and wrong. Nobody, regardless of race, color, anything, should be treated that way.
Correct.
My point. So it's like,
yeah.
And I think things get kind of muddy in the water when we're watching the news and Scottsdale Fashion Square is being broken into, and things here, and so it's like people are really angry but not knowing what to do.
Right.
With that anger.
Right.
And I think it spills out, and my sadness, as we've talked about, because we really support businesses and
absolutely
local businesses, is when I see that somebody that I think about a firefighter that had just retired.
Yeah, he spent his life savings opening that bar.
Done.
Silver lining.
I mean, if you want
to look at it as a silver lining, but people stepped up, and I think the last I had seen, they had raised over $500,000 to help him rebuild.
Right. Yeah, I did. No,
but where's he? But he's going to rebuild in a neighborhood that's going to be broken for years.
Right, but it's also because you're seeing these shop owners and stuff that are going and trying to protect their business and are getting beaten to death.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I know you're angry. I'm not trying to be like, I understand, but
because I don't.
Right, like
I'll never understand what it's like to have a skin color other than the one I was born with.
Right.
I won't.
Right. So I will never say, and we had that conversation the other day, which is just like, listen, we're seeing a lot of people on our social media that are saying these things, and I'm like, do we get to say these things? Like,
yeah, and I
don't get to say I understand. I don't get to say but I'm like, I support you, but I don't support burning, Flo's flower shop down.
I don't see the productivity in that.
Right.
But I also fully understand that this type of reaction, again, is not the result of a single incident.
Of course not.
It's
an ongoing.
This is a pot that's been nearly boiling over,
right,
since the last time it boiled over,
right,
in 1992. Right. Really,
no,
it's like,
and
we thought that things changed after the LA riots that spread across the country,
right,
and that obviously
it lasts for a little bit.
It was a short-lived piece, and then
right.
Now, and you would think that in the era of cameras everywhere, body cameras on officers, mm-hmm. why they have the option to turn them off ever, I don't know.
Right.
Well,
and from my experience, that not all have them.
Yeah, but even
right,
I had seen, and this is, I could be wrong, but the officers involved in the incident with George Floyd were wearing body cameras that they chose not to turn on before this incident began. I might not, that might not be factually correct, and if it is, then cool. But my question there is, if you are wearing a body camera that's been issued by your department as part of your employment,
right,
you shouldn't have the opportunity to turn that off ever.
Well, other than bathroom. But
sure.
I'm sorry. I'm just trying to.
No, yeah. Going to the bathroom is one thing, but when you're on duty,
right,
that thing should have. I know, like in your patrol cars, right? They're always running, but they're constantly deleting footage, right? And then when you flip on a siren or the lights, then it
starts recording, but it's 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Prior.
And so, why is there's a lot of questions,
right? And then
that need to be answered.
And then when I had, because when I was on I wasn't issued one. I got one myself.
That's right, and you did that for your own protection,
for my own,
and the protection of others.
And it was similar to, it was on.
It was always in a standby recording, and when you hit it, it's like you started it 30 seconds ago.
30 seconds ago.
Yeah.
But if it was like off, and you and I had like an interaction, and I quickly turned it on, it would start from
when you turned it on.
Booted up. I'm not trying to say that, like, it's not always.
Sure.
It has to be in that standby mode, I guess.
But again, it just brings me back to that question of if that's issued by your department as part of your job,
right,
and you turn it off ever,
then you got issues.
You should.
Right. No, 100%. So yeah,
but hey, government corruption doesn't stop with the police.
No, it doesn't.
And it was accentuated in
I think
a docuseries.
Yes.
I'm now segueing out of this because
I'm very impressed.
I think we've said everything that we need to say. I'm sure we could keep going back and forth about this, but I don't want this show to be that heavy.
Yeah, and we're not really going back and forth as far as like opposite sides of the thing, because we both agree of this needs to be about, right and wrong, and don't do wrong things for what you think is the
doing
right
the
reason.
wrong thing for the right reason is still doing the wrong thing.
Correct. Thank you. You just said that a whole lot better than me.
So,
but yes, you watched the docuseries.
I watched something about a whole different level of government corruption.
I didn't get to, but it's kind of funny because it's about our other topic, why I didn't get to it.
So
yeah. Continue.
We're bringing back everyone's favorite hashtag.
I feel like I can ask you questions about it.
So, this last week, a docuseries premiered on Netflix called Jeffrey Epstein, Filthy Rich.
Yes.
And boy, howdy.
Yeah.
Does it make you wonder? Again, it comes down to influence. It comes down, it's the new golden rule. He who has the gold makes the rules.
Yep. And the things that he...
They tried to sweep under the rug.
Right.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, and it's because I'm like,
one
who
of the
else is
prosecutors involved
yeah.
was appointed to a high-level position in Washington by one of the people who was implicated.
Right.
I mean, we've got major heads of state that have been implicated in this.
Hail Hydra.
Hail Hydra.
That's honestly what it makes me think of.
It's very similar to that,
yeah.
But it's like, and now that they've received some sort of vindication, not nearly enough, the victims are really starting to name names.
Right.
And I think it's a dangerous time to be one of those victims.
Yep.
And what it should be is a dangerous time to be one of those names that gets named.
100%.
You've got princes and presidents and former presidents
that are on this list.
And that have been to places where I promise you they shouldn't be.
Yep.
Their mama would be disappointed if they knew.
Yeah, and it's just like, I just go to this point of like, all right, you're in a position of power. Are you really that bored that you can start to think that this is a good idea? This is not going to get out in any kind of... regardless if you're in power or not, like you start doing some shady stuff.
Right.
It's going to get out. You can't keep that bottled.
So I went into this documentary wondering to myself, okay, at the end of this, will I still believe that Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself?
You were even more...
And now I am even more sure.
Yeah.
That Jeffrey Epstein did not kill himself.
Yes. And I did not get a chance to watch that because I was, what I was going to, it was more like, hey, we're going to sit down and watch something as a family. That's not really a family thing. So it was always, by the time I could have, I was already done for the day.
First response, I start watching the show and I immediately, I'm agitated. I'm angry. Because...
It's so unlike you.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I have girls this age.
Right.
And if it were one of my girls, Jeffrey Epstein would not have killed himself.
Right. 100%.
He wouldn't have hurt anybody after he touched one of my girls. But he knew that. Just that fact prevents my girls from ever being one of the people that he preyed upon because he knew who he was picking.
Oh yeah.
I'll
convince them
chalk it up to my own ignorance, but I was not aware of the drastic difference between the demographics in Palm Beach, Florida, and West Palm Beach, Florida.
Really?
Because it is the other side of the bridge.
Really?
Different. Or at least how it was described by some of the victims. Like, you go across a bridge, and you're in a whole different world. You go from these palaces to trailer parks and low-income housing and broken-down neighborhoods. I'm sure not all of West Palm Beach is that way, but it's certainly none of that exists in Palm Beach.
Right.
So it was
it's a whole different neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's a whole,
and having interviews with people who worked on his island, talking about things that they have seen, and people, just people in general who worked on that island, talking about the things that they saw. Why did they do nothing?
Right.
I don't want to misattribute the quote, but for evil to triumph, all of it takes is for good men to do nothing.
100%.
These people saw things and they chose to look the other way for a paycheck.
Yeah.
You know, which again
it ties to everything.
Ties into everything else we've been talking about today. Is having to choose between doing what's right and choosing a paycheck is a really, really terrible place to be.
Right.
But you still have to choose to do the right thing.
Right. You see, yeah, it hits a point where you got to be like, some really bad stuff is happening. Something needs to be said. Something needs to be done.
Yeah. But man, did it make me... It made me upset, but it also... by the end of it, I go... I already knew that Epstein was a scumbag.
Right.
So that opinion didn't change at all.
Right.
In no way, shape, or form did they attempt to make this man sympathetic, which was something I'm always worried about in any type of like biographical type of depiction.
That
like
they'll try and make you sympathetic towards.
I watched Koresh on Netflix a few weeks ago.
Okay.
And there was a heavy slant in that to try and make the character, and I use that term loosely, of David Koresh to be a sympathetic person. Yeah. And while, yes, I agree that the government acted inappropriately, the world is certainly a better place without David Koresh.
Well, it's kind of
so again, you put you in a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, it's kind of like the other Netflix show that we had kind of talked about beforehand, being Tiger King.
Right.
But I was sitting there looking at today, and everybody's like, Joe Exotic, yay, Joe Exotic. He was still a bad dude.
Still a bad man. Did you hear the news?
That's what.
Speaking of the Tiger King,
I was segueing. Season 2 or 3, it's coming.
No,
that's
not what I'm talking about.
No, I know, but
I'm talking about the news that
the zoo no
longer belongs to
Joe Exotic
or his company. It was given to Carol Baskins. Like, what?
I don't even know what to do with that, but yeah, man. But the kind of point, just like she's a bad person.
She's not good. She's not a good person either.
But kind of making it, to be the thing. But no, I haven't seen the Jeffrey Epstein thing. I will be watching it, but I think the other times that I had a chance, it was like I'm in too good of a mood to be sitting down. Like I know
something
how
I contemplated. Because this documentary launched on Wednesday,
right?
So, and the George Floyd incident occurred on Monday afternoon.
Right.
And so there was already a lot of unrest. I've been pulling back on the time I'm spending on social media just for my own mental health. It's just something I need to do.
Same here.
So, like even Sunday, I usually every week I make a we do our whole Sunday sandwich thing, and I usually film it and I make a video and I put that out on my YouTube channel. I just
didn't have it.
I couldn't bring myself to do it. I didn't want to mess with it at all.
Right.
On Sunday, I just was spent.
Yeah.
Mentally.
Well, I have my safety Sundays.
Yeah.
And it was even like I did put something up, but I had to like really sit there for a little bit to make sure that I wasn't being insensitive or not. You know what I mean? Like, because you don't want people to like by not saying something.
Right.
Are you saying that it's fine?
Silence is acceptance.
Right. And it's like, no, I'm not being silent. My opinion is always like, be careful of the quietest person in the room.
Yeah.
That's just my thing. What I was even talking to my son today was just being like, listen, there's a lot of people that are just reacting and saying things because they're angry and they're hurt. But, taking some time to decompress and think.
Yeah.
Think about it isn't a bad thing. Like to, think outside the box and to try and figure it out instead of reacting. But I also understand reacting because people are upset. There's no right and wrong when it comes to that, but it's just kind of like, okay,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, so but then that news hit. I found that out, I think, yesterday regarding Carol Baskin.
Yeah, that got announced yesterday. I was going to watch both of the things that we were talking about last night, kind of segueing into the other thing that we said we were going to watch. Are you preparing?
So as we've been chatting, I have been, again, just I'll have it on in the background pretty much during the day when I'm just doing other things.
Right.
So I just finished the last episode today of The Office.
For the how?
Oh, who
time?
knows? Probably
Right.
fourth, fifth time I've watched the entire series, and it made me more sad about the topic that we must bring up next.
So the other thing that we had said that we were going to watch, because we were both excited about it, but equally kind of.
I'm always skeptical,
Right, to a certain extent,
because Netflix originals can be brilliant.
Yeah.
Daredevil.
Yeah, or they can be disastrous.
Hot garbage.
Right. So excited
Ridiculous
for Space Force, which perfect timing. Like
right?
Because like they just launched, which we could kind of talk about the SpaceX, first time in a decade that they launched, people from U.S. soil into space.
Correct.
And which was a fun conversation to have with my kids that what did they mean soil? Isn't there soil ever? Yes, but it's U.S. soil. Well, it's dirt. Yeah, okay. So, which, like everything kind of lined up for this like perfect timing of space and everything like that. I did not make it through the first episode. Not for a lack of like, was just.
I made it through the first 3.
Yeah.
And I plan on finishing it.
I'll watch it.
Just because I'm no quitter.
I'm hoping it gets.
I'll trudge through it. I've sat through worse,
Right.
So because it's got moments that are
right.
But the first reaction that came to my mind after I watched the first episode was Michael Scott was way too old to join the military when he quit Dunder Mifflin.
Yeah. And it's a
and then again
and it's not Michael Scott, but
boy is it not.
It's
Michael Scott.
It's
at the same time.
Right. It's pretty much Michael Scott.
So it just felt recycled, and I was really excited because this thing's got a cast.
Well, not only that, but it's one of those things of you'll see. I always like to give actors credit of like, hey, I didn't see them as this character in this movie. You know what I mean? Like, but it was, I saw him as Michael Scott.
Right.
I've seen other movies with Steve Carell, and I've never
that he wasn't Michael Scott,
and I've never go, hey, that's Michael Scott. But doing that, I was like, why is he?
This is Michael Scott again.
Right. I'm like, why is he married to Phoebe from Friends? And like,
which
where's
and
Holly?
then and again,
they're like,
I haven't finished the show, but why is she in prison?
Yeah. Okay. I was like, I fell asleep during the episode, and I'm like, did it? So when I woke up, it was midway through the second episode, and
well,
he was talking to a monkey.
Yeah. Well, this is like 10 minutes into the first episode. It kind of sets some things up, and then
right,
it cuts, and then she's in prison, and we don't know why. Okay. Maybe we'll find out later. I don't know.
Right.
But again, you read the cast list, and you're like, this has some really big potential. But it was when you've got Steve Carell, John Malkovich, Ben Schwartz, who I think is hilarious in the right contexts.
And I think I started to fade out when it introduced his character because the first episode was just moving so slow, and I was fine at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah, but Lisa Kudrow's not even in every episode, and she was like one of the top billed cast members. And then there Jane Lynch is again one of the top billed.
She was in it for, and
she has a from what I can see so far a very small part. So far, my favorite character in there is John Malkovich's character.
Yeah, when he came on, it was like, okay, you kind of got interested for a little bit because it's like, hey, we just spent $6 billion on this rocket, Like
let's
the
not
conditions,
blow it up.
The conditions need to be perfect.
Yeah, and I think that I like John Malkovich in this particular show
Right.
for the same reason I like John Malkovich in every show, because who does John Malkovich play? John Malkovich.
Yeah, except in like the movie, like
he just
Red,
has a different job.
where he was like a crazier John Malkovich.
Yeah,
like,
but he was still John Malkovich.
Right, he was still John Malkovich, but just a crazier version where it was like, hey, we're gonna let John Malkovich off his leash.
We're just gonna let John Malkovich be John Malkovich. Malkovich.
Yeah.
Malkovich.
That's still a weird movie, man. Every once in a while, a movie comes across, which is just being John Malkovich. It's just one of those weird movies that you go, was that ahead of its time?
Or
was
not.
That
behind its time?
Or was that
Did we ever need it in the first place?
Right. What was that?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm gonna sit down and actually go, all right.
I'm gonna give it more. I always like to remind myself that I didn't really care for Breaking Bad until I was like 4 or 5 episodes in, and that's when it got me.
And that's still one that I need to sit down, because I've seen the first episode and it didn't hook me.
And that's a pretty common, like, everyone will tell you, you gotta get through the first 3.
Right.
And so I always remind myself, hey, I didn't like this show that I really like right at first.
Right.
Let's give it a little room to breathe and see what happens.
Right.
So, but yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff going on in the world today, but at least we still found some time to watch a little bit of good stuff. You know, there's plenty of good in the world. I think we all need to remember that, even when things look pretty bad.
Yep, and it's just so supporting one another without trying to destroy one another.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Like we can do it. We just gotta, But there's work to be done.
Yep. 100%.
There's work to be done. So, I don't think we can say it any more than that. Just take care of each other.
Yeah,
it's what we need right now. 100%. And
on a brighter note, that if we will post and find out about possible our appearance.
Yeah,
come Friday.
So we
if
have
you
some
are in the Prescott area.
Yeah, we have some movie nights in the park planned for this summer that we're doing in partnership with Hero Party Rentals and the James family and the city of Prescott that we're super, super excited about bringing to the community. So as soon as we know that we can actually do that and not violate our current curfew laws, we will let y'all know.
Yeah, so we'll be there possibly with some merch.
Yeah,
we'll be there with our
things.
business partner with the Rockstar Group.
Yep.
So hopefully we'll get to do that and be good to one another.
That's right.
There you go.
Until next time, he's Tucker.
He's the Beard.
And we're out.